one more minute and then we'll get started. Thank you. All right, let's get started, folks. Thank you once again and welcome to today's webinar on estate planning. You're in for a treat, so make sure you got your notepads out because you're going to get plenty of information. We want you to take that information, go out and share it, and let families know that you're there to help them with their estate planning needs. For those who don't know me, I'm Dennis O'Keefe. I'm the AVP for Client Solutions for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic region. And just as I am, there are other folks spread out across the country that could assist you with your Client Solutions training. Any issues or questions with licensing or compensation, they're there to help you grow your business through Client Solutions. So please reach out to these folks. We got Craig Gant in the Southeast and Pacific region, and that's the Orange region. We do have a replacement coming for the Florida, Puerto Rico, and West region. In the interim, we would like you to contact Robert, who is our National Sales Manager. If you have any questions, folks from that area, please reach out to Robert. And then in the Midwest region, the red, we have the awesome Leon Vaughn. In the California, Hawaii, we had Dave Villalba. And then Greg Stribe in the Southwest region, the blue region. So once again, reach out to these folks for your training needs, any issues you have with Client Solutions, because they are your resource from home office, and we love to help you grow your business through Client Solutions. So a couple of key items I want to go over real quick with you. As far as Client Solutions go, the numbers are the numbers. I've been in the business now for over 25 years, and I've learned to pay attention to numbers because they do tell the truth. So leaders building leaders with Client Solutions. New recruits who sold at least one Client Solutions product were 5 times as likely to obtain their license after they made their first Client Solutions product sale or referral. Okay. And then new recruits that use at least one Client Solutions program are 7 times as likely to earn a field training bonus. And reps who sold at least one Client Solutions product before becoming life licensed were 13 times as likely to make a life sale than life license reps who were not involved in Client Solutions. And then finally, new recruits that use at least one Client Solutions program are 3 times as likely to personally recruit a downline. So what all this says to me is incorporate Client Solutions into your business and you'll have success, especially getting your new recruits paid, utilizing them to set field of train appointments with our products and services, of course. So the numbers don't lie, folks. So pay attention to them and live by these numbers because they will result in you helping grow your business. Okay. The heat is on in June. That's the theme this month by our great CEO, anointed that for June. A couple of things I want to mention. Our Gulf Coast Getaway is underway. We started last month in May. It will conclude in November. There's going to be 3 phases for this trip. Awesome destination. We've done this before, and it's great to get down and share with your teammates and exchange ideas and everything. So awesome place. And the reason I want to bring this up as well is you can qualify through Client Solutions. We have 25 slots, personal production. It's a points-based system. You close an auto with a client, a homeowners with a client, that's $1,500 each. You could do a PLPP, $1,500, Vivint, $1,500, ID theft defense, $1,000, and ID theft defense individual, 500 points. So we're going to take the top 25 personal producers based by points, and by the last competition that we had for San Diego, the number 28 slot, we had 28 slots for that, was about 66,000. Prior to that, the Orlando trip was about 70,000. So I would say, to be safe, to qualify at least 70,000. But if you're in the running, you'll hear from me, and then my teammates will also boost you across the finish line. Okay. But a couple announcements as well to bring to light. PLPP family plans are now available in Massachusetts. So all our states now have availability to 3 PLPP programs. The one thing about Massachusetts, though, you do need a license to operate in the state of Massachusetts to offer the PLPP program to clients there, be it a non-resident or a resident, okay? But all states are now on the three-tier program. Also, this month, we're offering a PLPP bonus. We started this back in April. We're continuing it through June. Basically, you can earn a $75 bonus once you do your 3 PLPP sales in the calendar month of June. RVP base shops can earn a $750 bonus for 10 plus PLPP base shops in the calendar month. So take advantage of that. And we did put a kicker in there for identity theft sales. 2 identity theft sales equal 1 PLPP sale. So essentially, you could do 6 identity theft sales. That will equal your 3 PLPP sales, and you get the $75 bonus as well. Okay. And then this bonus is in play all the time. This is a new rep incentive for folks coming into the business within their first 30 days of signing the IBA. They need to watch the Vivint video, which is out on the Vivint site on POL under the products tab. Click on that. You'll see that once you're on the site. And then they also have to complete a Vivint referral within 30 days of signing the IBA. Could be a referral on themselves for a system or anybody else. And then the install has got to be done within 45 days of signing the IBA. And they'll pick up that $200 bonus once they do the full service Vivint sale. And also, we have growing life licensing with Client Solutions available now on demand. We did this on June 11th. We had the great Omar Arpeso, Myrna Guerrero, and Mike Evans talking about growing life licensing through Client Solutions. So please take a look at that. That is well worth, well worth the watch to see and everything. Okay, so take a look at that. But today's topic, of course, is PLPP, problems we face currently. One of the biggest areas that we can immediately impact families is with a will. We do a great job offering life insurance to clients. We should have this go hand in hand with that sale because only 32% of Americans have a will. So what does that mean? 68% don't. So that's an opportunity for us to be asking clients, when was the last time they updated their final love letter, which to me is their will, of course, all right? And they're either going to say, well, I haven't updated in years, or I don't have one. In either case, you're going to say, let's get that updated or get you set up with one through our Primerica Legal Protection Program. And legal advice is not affordable for most people. Most people are in the mode of checking their checkbook before they check their rights, but no longer do they have to do that. We leveled the playing field with these 3 options now available. And life can be unpredictable and the law can be complicated. No longer do we have to rely on our Uncle Joe who sleeps on the couch, twice a week, thinks he is a lawyer, never went to law school. We all have one of those in our family, right? So, and approximately 41 million speeding tickets are issued each year. I fall into this bucket. My PLPP has helped me out greatly with this. It doesn't give me the right to speed, but when I do get caught, they were there to help me and assist me with that, okay? And that is our solution, folks, our Primerica Legal Protection Program, which is only offered through Primerica. So feel special about this and get the word out to your clients about it, okay? We launched the new 3-tier program back on March 1st in US, Puerto Rico, and Canada. 3 plans now. It's a PLPP, PLPP Preferred, and PLPP Platinum, $29.95, $39.95, and $49.95. Our friends in Canada have it at $59.95. And the new features that everybody's are excited about, especially are the revocable trust, e-signatures, online notarization in the US only, tenant lease assistance, prenuptial and postnuptial preparation, and we did increase compensation in the PLPP Preferred and PLPP Platinum plans. One thing I did mention earlier about licensing, there are 5 states that do require a resident or non-resident license to do business in those states: Massachusetts, New Jersey, Virginia, South Carolina, Alaska. These other states that are gray, you are free to roam. It's independent of a life license. So if you have family out in California that needs your assistance, you're good to go out there and help those families out and everything, okay? So 3 ways to submit business. You could go through the Primerica app, click on Turbo Apps, and then go to Legal Protection, or enter through POL, go to the Products tab, through the drop-down menu, click on PLPP, then once you're on the site, CE Application, or go to primerica.legalshield.com. All three ways will get you into being able to start the application for the client. And really, what you want to do is once you finish the application, give them a heads up and let them know within 2 business days they're going to be receiving via email that they put in the application their membership package. That membership package is going to give the law firm's information as well as the membership number for that client. And really, what I'd like you to do is do some hand holding. Actually, tell the client once they receive that package to give you a call. Go there and sit down with them, not to answer any legal questions. We're going to get the attorney on the phone to do that, but basically get them started on their will, because they're going to list an executor for their will, right? They're going to list guardians if they have children, and you're going to get 2 warm appointments out of that just by doing that hand holding, because you're going to tell the client, don't you think we should all be on the same page if something happens to you, especially since I wrote your life insurance, that's your executor, and these are the guardians for your children. So you get 2 warm appointments, you'll have an opportunity to get more referrals, and you'll give an opportunity to recruit that individual once again by sitting down with them and doing that hand holding. But overall, they'll be able to start that will and get that in place along with the other documents. And for our Spanish brothers and sisters, we do have a Spanish option available in 11 states in Puerto Rico, Arizona, California, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Pennsylvania, Puerto Rico, and Texas. Okay. You can select the Spanish language by going into the screen to make the enrollment. Upper right-hand corner, there'll be an American flag. Click on that, and you'll have the option to do English or Spanish. Canada folks could just do English for Canadians. Okay. And then anybody who has an existing plan, nothing is changing, okay? If you do want to upgrade to one of the other plans, you can do that. You do have to call in, or your client has to call in as well, to 800-426-9239. Let them know you want to change into the new Primerica 29, 39, or 49, whichever one you choose, okay? No new production credit's going to be given for that. However, renewal compensation will automatically follow comp schedule for the selected product. So you'll get a little difference there with the other 2 products, the PLPP preferred and the PLPP regular programs as well, okay? So look at this, folks. One sale, PLPP sale, $29.95 plan, could be anywhere from $50 to $125, depending on what your level is. The $39.95 plan is $60 to $155, and the other PLPP plan, Platinum plan, is anywhere from $70 to $175. So this is some pretty good income, folks, and everything. Think of this, doing at least one a week, possibly. Set that as a goal, and it could add up along with all of the other client solutions income that we have out there. We could start making some pretty good part-time income before you get life license, especially, right? And we want to keep those folks who are going for their life license engaged, making money. So in case they do not pass that exam, they know they're making money and Primerica works and everything. So get them involved with client solutions right away, as the statistics said earlier, and you'll have success with these folks, okay? And then finally, the PLPP top 5 monthly bonus compensation. We're going to incent the top 5 personal producers across the country. And this varies. I've seen at one time someone get, close 5 and pick up an extra $500. In other cases, I've seen them do, 20. Okay. But that's also out on the site for PLPP. Just go to the top 5 personal producers and you'll see that as well. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And the next gentleman I'm going to bring up to present is the awesome Mike Fivick. Mike is the managing member of the Fivick Law Group in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Mike has assisted a variety of clients and their families over 32 years now in the areas of estate planning, trust, digital estate planning, elder law, estate administration, and estate litigation. His law firm handles over 1,500 estate planning engagements annually, and Mike has helped over 35,000 families plan their estates and take care of their families over the last 20 years. So Mike does a great job, and he's here to share with you today. So Mike, I could see your presentation. You want to give me a sound check?
Hi, Dennis. Hi, everybody. Glad to be
You are
here
good to
today.
go. Good to go.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me. And it's always a pleasure to talk to our friends at Primerica. And I am Mike Fifick. My law firm is Fifick Law Group. I have offices in Pittsburgh and suburban Philadelphia. And I've been doing estate planning for about 32 years at this point. You might see my name pop up every once in a while online, as I've been quoted in a variety of national publications, including the New York Times, CNBC, U.S. News World Report, and a variety of other publications talking about estate planning and all manner of estate planning. And I love to talk about estate planning, and I love working with my Primerica friends and our customers on this type of stuff. So I hope that you get some takeaways today. And the way I've designed this presentation is to talk about life situations that your customers are going to present to you so that you can recognize them and realize, oh, that's somebody that I need to connect with an attorney to get some estate planning. And oh, by the way, if they are a PLPP member, if they have that membership, getting that work done, getting their families protected is going to be even less expensive for them along the way. So here's what we're going to talk about. I want to talk about some legal issues that your customers have that we talk to them about all the time, why we should be working together, and why you should be putting your clients into a Primerica legal protection plan, and the life situations where legal assistance is going to be helpful for them. So first and foremost, your customers have legal issues coming up in their lives all the time. In fact, statistics tell us that 75% of American households have at least one problem of significance each year where connecting them with a lawyer would make that situation better or even solve the problem. And 40% of households have five or more of those type of a situation coming up. So it's not really a question of if, but really when your customers are having these issues. Maybe they talk to you about them, maybe they don't talk to you about them, but they definitely are having these problems come up. And they are things that are bread and butter types of things that your household there and you would recognize. They are going to involve problems with money or income. Perhaps it's an application for government benefits, or maybe they're having an old debt collection problem. Perhaps there's a student loan issue because that's certainly out there. They're collecting on those again. Might have a housing related issue. It could be a mortgage issue, could be a rental issue. Maybe it's a problem with their neighbor. Boundary disputes and problems with neighbors are not terribly uncommon. If you're in a windy area, it could be your neighbor's tree uh, blew over in your yard and you're fighting with them over whose responsibility it is to get rid of that thing. Employment related matters come up quite frequently. Perhaps somebody has unpaid wages. They're having a disagreement about what their employment contract says, whether they're getting paid for their time off properly. Maybe they are a victim of some type of workplace abuse or discrimination, and they don't really know where to turn. Relationship breakdowns, something very common, right? Whether it's marriages in transition, meaning divorce, child custody, child support, domestic abuse related problems. Sadly, these are very common occurrences for many of our respective customers. They might have an insurance dispute or a legal status type of a dispute. Maybe they can't get a job because they find out that there's something in their past that is preventing them from getting a job and they want to have it expunged, or maybe they have a problem or their family members have some type of a problem. So, most people, the problem for most folks is they, number one, don't know where to turn whenever these problems come up, right? Because talking to a lawyer isn't necessarily something that pops into their mind. They're trained by all the billboards and advertisements on TV that lawyers would be happy to talk to them if they've been hit by a tractor trailer, or maybe if they have mesothelioma or some other type of terrible disease, and there's a claim to be made for them. But the vast majority of problems that your customers have, there's no billboard out there. There's no lawyer out there who says, I would love to talk to you for free about whatever your issue is. But believe me, you want to connect them with a lawyer, and it's going to make their situation better. It's going to reduce their anxiety, reduce their stress if you can connect them with an attorney. That's really the key. So let me switch gears a little bit and talk to you about estate planning. And I want to share with you 5 reasons why I think that your customers should access their estate planning tools. Number one, um, you got to plan in advance, right? Your health could change unexpectedly. So many folks wait until it's too late in order to get their estate planning in place. I can't tell you how many times I get called by a son or a daughter to get something in place for dad who's in a nursing facility, has dementia, in cognitive decline, physically can't even sign documents. And boy, those are just really tough situations. And you don't want to put your family in that situation of having to scramble at a very difficult time in your life and their life in order to get these things done. Some folks think that they know the law, but I will tell you that they probably don't. And they make mistakes with their estate plan. Some folks decide, well, I'm going to have everything pass according to beneficiary forms, and it's all going to work out just fine. I don't need a will. I don't need a trust. I don't need anything like that. That's really a false sense of security. Give you a brief example. A grandma had various accounts that she earmarked for all of her grandchildren. And so if she passed away, that money was going to go to their grandchildren, many of whom were under age 18. Well, in many states, a person under age 18 is not eligible to receive money on a beneficiary form from an account. That has to go to a guardian for their benefit until they reach the age of majority. Grandma didn't know that. And so what had to happen after she passed away? We had to go through an expensive court proceeding to have guardians appointed for all of her grandkids to receive this money and hold on their behalf until they reach age 18. Uh, that's just a mistake of not knowing. I don't know a lot about car repair. I don't know a lot about home repairs. So that's why I hire specialists to come in and get that stuff done for me, because I might try to do it on my own and maybe I just make the situation worse. The same applies for estate planning. Whenever you don't get your estate plan done, and 2/3 of Americans do not have an estate plan in place, it can be really expensive to fix that problem after somebody dies. Another example, mom had 5 children. She had 2 pieces of property, never got her planning done. We're going to talk about what I call the Game of Thrones that happens after she passes away, just to figure out who is going to manage her estate. 2 years after she passed away, her estate is still not open and it's not being administered. And that family is going through an expensive court proceeding, fighting among siblings as to who is going to manage mom's estate, not the legacy that you want to leave. Now, a lot of folks make the mistake of thinking that estate planning is just for their family. And really, estate planning is about you too, right? Getting your estate planning done benefits you while you're alive, because part of estate planning is powers of attorney to designate someone to manage your finances whenever you are temporarily unable to do that, or make medical decisions for you, or manage your assets whenever you are unavailable for whatever reason. So getting this stuff done benefits you as well as your family. And a lot of folks just miss that idea, but it's a really important thing to realize about estate planning. And then finally, if for no other reason, what do you want your family legacy to be? Whenever you don't get your estate planning done, your legacy might be chaos, stress, anxiety, because your family is worried about the fight over your estate rather than just mourning your loss. Or do you want your legacy to be organized, thoughtful, loving, planned, right? I love you so much. I care for you so much. I wanted to make sure that I had a plan in place so that the transition will be as smooth as possible. And I will tell you, a lot of folks, when I sit down and talk to them, that's exactly what they want to have happen. And usually it's because they've been on the bad end of a disorganized estate administration. So for those of you, and I see that there are about 500 on this call, I bet a fair number of you don't have an estate plan in place. So I'm here to make you feel better about that. And I'm here to tell you that the government has a will for you. And it's called the law of intestate succession. That's not intended to make you feel better, actually. That's a little bit tongue in cheek. You don't really want to rely on the government's will for your family. That sounds pretty crazy. Trust in government is at an all-time low. And why would you think that the government's cookie cutter plan is going to take care of your family as well or better than how you could take care of your family? Don't rely on it, because the government's will for your family was probably written sometime in the 1800s, and it's based upon all kinds of assumptions about what a family is, or what you want to have happen with your estate after you pass away. And you don't want to rely on the government's assumptions about what your family is, who your loved ones are, what you want to have done with all of your hard earned savings. So don't rely on that. Whenever folks don't have their estate planning in place, I like to call those situations oftentimes no will nightmare situations. And I'm going to talk to you about some of those. And I guarantee that one or more of these will either be your family situation or a family situation of somebody that you know very, very well. So, family situation number one that can end up being a nightmare with no will or a trust in place. And this involves blended families. And what do I mean by blended families? I mean a couple that brings children in from each of them brings a child in from a prior relationship, right? The stereotypical situation, when it's planned, right, says, I want to leave my estate to benefit my surviving spouse while they're alive. And then after he or she passes away, I want my savings to go to my kids. Or maybe you love your stepkids and you want it to be split evenly, but there's some kind of plan like that in place. That's not what the government's will likely provides for a blended family. The government's will says that your surviving spouse is going to split your estate with your kids and, together, as well as your kids from a prior relationship. Now, that's going to be a pretty tough situation if, let's say, the house is just in your name and you all moved in there and you never took the time to put your spouse's name on the deed. Not uncommon at all, right? Maybe that's your major asset. Well, guess what? Your surviving spouse might have to sell the house just to split the money with the kids. They might have no choice in that because the kids are young and they have to do it that way. Or maybe your stepkids don't like your spouse and they're looking to get over them in some kind of a way. Here's another problem. The government's will doesn't pick a guardian to manage the assets for your kids. And you're going to be leaving that decision up to some faceless judge who doesn't know your family, doesn't know your values, doesn't know your family situation. So this can be a real nightmare for blended families to rely on the government's will. Situation number two, second marriages. Very common, right? There are lots of second marriages out there. Just talked to a lady yesterday who is in a second marriage, been married for 20 years, and she's in her 60s, and she's got two daughters of her own, and her husband has a son of his own who's a ne'er-do-well that she doesn't like. He's got some problems in life. That's going to require some special planning, right? Um, you may have they often have children from prior relationships. You want to make sure that your kids get something from your estate, right? Because with no will, it's likely that your surviving spouse is going to get some portion of your estate. And guess what? In that situation that I just told you about, if the husband doesn't have a plan in place, and this particular husband doesn't have a plan in place, half of her money can end up with the kid that they're estranged from. You wouldn't want that to have happen. You'd want to make sure that it stays all in your family, right? So second marriages present a very special type of a planning situation that you should recognize right away and tell your clients, hey, look, if you don't have a plan in place, you really need to talk to an estate planning attorney because they're going to help you figure out how to make sure that everybody's taken care of in a fair kind of way. Unmarried couples, very common, right? People are deferring marriage longer now than they ever have in the history of the United States. I think the average age of a marriage is 26 or 27 at this point. Some folks just don't get married at all. Sometimes they just move in together and do their thing, right? Well, guess what? The government's will doesn't recognize your boyfriend or girlfriend or your fiance, right? There is no common law marriage anymore. It's not recognized under the law in the vast majority of states. So your significant other, doesn't matter how long you've been together, doesn't matter whether you've been calling yourself husband and wife or husband and husband or wife and wife or whatever it is in your situation, doesn't matter. They ain't going to get nothing out of your estate under the government's will. And again, if you're living in a house that's titled just to you, do you want your significant other to get the boot? that would be a problem. Maybe you bought a house together and both of your names are on the house. Now, guess what? Your surviving significant other is going to probably go through a partition action where they'll either have to buy the house from your estate or the house will have to be sold in order for your estate to get your share of that residence. We're trying to get unmarried couples to sign what I call a cohabitation agreement when they buy a house together, but they're unmarried, because in the most states, there is not a good law for dividing real estate that is owned by unmarried people. When they break up, when they die, when their lives go in opposite directions, whatever it is, there's a lot of things that they would want to have done, but the law doesn't really provide for that, and it's very expensive to solve that problem. These are some of the questions. If you own a home together as an unmarried couple and you break up, who stays? Who moves out? Who pays the mortgage and the bills after you guys break up? How do you each get paid back for the money that you invested in the property, right? Because the person who's staying in the home may not have enough cash to to reimburse the one that's leaving for the down payment that they paid in order to buy the house, or maybe the money that they put in to put a new roof on or new windows, or all of the sweat equity they put into the house. Very complicated set of issues that need to be resolved for unmarried couples. And you need some type of a set of rules on how the house is going to be sold and how the money is going to be divided. Single parents, super important, right? They absolutely positively need to get their estate planning done, especially if they have children, children under the age of 18. Here are some questions that the government's will isn't going to answer for you. Who's going to manage the money that you leave to your kids? There's going to be a court proceeding to appoint that person, and you don't get to pick. Think about that. You don't get to pick who manages the money for your kids. Guess what else? You don't get to pick who takes care of your kids whenever you don't have a will in place. The government is going to decide that. That is such an important thing for you to decide. Who would you entrust your babies to? Who know your values, understand your values, who are going to raise them the way that you would want to raise them, right? Do you want to take the chance that the sister who was always critical of your child raising capabilities is the one who puts their hand up and says, I'll do it? Probably not. That's a super important decision that you get to make whenever, as an American, right? It's your right to make these decisions for your family. And when you don't make these decisions for your family, you are waiving that right. And you are opting to allow the government and the courts to make all these decisions for you. You don't want to do that, right? You don't want to do that. Okay, Executor Game of Thrones. I referred to this earlier, right? And whenever you don't, one of the most important things that you get to do whenever you get your estate planning in place is to pick a person, often called an executor or maybe a trustee, who is the quarterback of your plan. They are going to make sure that your wishes are taken care of. They're going to carry the ball down the field and get it across the goal line for you. That's a very important decision that you get to make. But whenever you don't have an estate plan in place, guess what? That decision is going to be left most likely to the courts if your family can't decide. In the family situation that I shared with you earlier, if you recall, mom dies, 5 kids, they all can't agree on what day of the week it is, right? And 2 years after mom passed away, they're still fighting with one another over who's going to take care of mom's estate. So they all have to hire lawyers. They're all going to go to court and spend lots of money. And guess what? If the court thinks that none of them are going to be able to get along, the court is likely to appoint a non-family member to do that, which just costs even more money to manage an estate. And if the estate is of modest means, that just takes a huge portion of what mom was hoping to leave for her kids after she passes away. But she didn't get the plan done. And so her legacy is chaos and stress and litigation and everything else. It doesn't have to be that way. Special needs children. Lots of families out there with children that have special needs, right? Eligibility for government benefits is a key factor for these kids, right? If you leave money to a child that is on government benefits where they can't have more than a certain amount of resources, you are going to render them ineligible for those government benefits. They'll have to spend your money down and then they'll have to reapply for the benefits. That's a waste of your money, and reapplying for benefits might be something that that child isn't able to do on their own. So that's just a terrible situation. It doesn't have to happen. You can leave your money in a special type of a trust that will enrich your child's life without disqualifying them for continuing to receive government benefits. And it's also important, in particular, to make sure that your special needs child has a power of attorney or has a guardian, somebody that's there to care for them. Don't pass away and leave them in the total lurch with nobody to take care of them. These are things that as Americans, we can be in control of, and we don't have to allow these things to be taken care of by the government for us or by the courts. So let's talk very briefly about what a will actually does. So whenever you have a will, you get to direct the distribution and handling of your assets. Who gets what, when, and in what proportions? Those are the basics, right? You get to appoint somebody that you trust to be the quarterback of your plan, right? To carry out your plan. That person is called an executor. You get to appoint somebody to care for your children if they're under age 18. That means somebody to help them with their homework and put them to bed and pack their lunches and make sure they go to school and soccer practice and all that kind of stuff. Somebody to take them to church to raise them with the values that you have. You can place an age restriction on your kids' access to the money that you're leaving. The vast majority of people don't think that it's appropriate for an 18-year-old to come into a lot of money. You may want to defer their access to that money until they're 21 or out of college or 25 or even longer. There are lots of different things that you can do to protect those assets. Heck, you can even leave it in a trust and protect that money so that it will never be vulnerable in the event your kids get a divorce, or if they have addiction problems, or if they are have credit problems. That money will always be protected from all of those bad things that can happen to them in life. And you can also make gifts to non-family members, like your partner, if you're unmarried, stepchildren who aren't considered children under the government's will in most instances, maybe to a friend, maybe to your church or other charities that are near and dear to your heart. The government's will doesn't provide for any of those types of things. And again, you're waiving your right to support a charity, right, that's close to you by relying on the government's will when you could otherwise make a gift out of your will. It's also important for folks to understand what a will does not do or the assets that it doesn't control. So if an asset is titled jointly, like a bank account, where there's a deed with the right of survivorship, those accounts, that titling is going to dictate what happens with that money after you pass away. It's not uncommon for people to put somebody's name on an account, and their intention is that that person's going to be able to write checks for me and pay my bills. But what really happening is they are now a co-owner of all that money, and they're going to inherit it after they pass away. Had a client do that. She had an adult special needs child. She was getting ready to have surgery, so she put her sister's name on her account. The idea was, you'll be able to pay my bills after for after I have surgery and I'm recuperating, and make sure that my adult special needs daughter is taken care of. Well, she passed away a couple of weeks after she had the surgery. Guess what? Sister inherited about $80,000 in a checking account, and she wasn't willing to give it up for the support of the adult disabled daughter. And we had to sue her to get that money for the daughter. A lot of people don't understand that that's what happens. Assets controlled by a beneficiary form. You all are very familiar with these things. IRAs, 401ks, life insurance, annuities, these other types of policies. That beneficiary form designation dictates where that money goes. But we also know that there ain't a whole lot of room on those forms to do any contingency planning. And so that's why it's so important to have a will or a trust to work in concert with those beneficiary forms to make sure that if contingencies arise, we actually have a plan for what's going to be happening with that money. And then the assets in a trust typically aren't going to be controlled by the provisions that are in a will. So briefly, let me talk to you about what a trust is. Okay. A trust is like your red radio flyer wagon. I don't even know if they make these anymore, and I'm probably dating myself by even talking about them, right? So a trust is something that you put assets into, right? Here are the players. If this were a play or a Broadway show, these are the players. These are the cast members to a trust. The grantor, right? That's the person who creates the trust. So your client, if they have a trust, they're the grantor. The trustee is the person who is in charge of the assets in the trust and carrying out the terms of the trust, right? Think of a trust as a set of instructions that are left for the trustee to follow after that grantor either can't make their own decisions or after they pass away. Oftentimes, the grantor and the trustee are the same person, especially if it's a revocable trust. And then the beneficiary is the person who benefits from the trust. That sometimes is also the grantor and the trustee in the case of a revocable trust, but it can also be somebody else, like a spouse, your children, a church, a charity. There are lots of different possibilities as a beneficiary for a trust. So, how do we create a trust? There are a variety of different trusts. Some trusts come to life only after the person dies. And those types of trusts are called a testamentary trust. They are typically found within the four corners of a will, and they only come into existence after the person who prepared the will passes away and after their estate is settled. It goes through probate. Then that money is distributed into the trust, and the trust will dictate what happens with the money after they pass away. But you can also create a trust while you're alive. And those trusts, not surprisingly, are called living trusts. Sometimes they're called revocable living trusts, but basically you create them while you're alive. Um, they can be revocable, but they can also be irrevocable, meaning once you put the assets into that trust, your access and ability to control that money or those assets, could be real estate, could be anything, is restricted or limited in some way. And oftentimes these trusts are used as an estate planning tool in place of or in lieu of or as a substitute for a will. One of the things that they do is avoid the costs and delays involved in the probate process. And those costs and delays vary depending on what state you're in. They are more prevalent in some states than they are in others. So, type of trust, we have the revocable trust. And in these types of trust, the grantor is in complete control of the assets that are in the trust, or using our word picture here, the assets that are in the wagon, right? They're in control. They have the handle. They're pulling the wagon around wherever it is that they want to go. They receive all the benefits that are of the assets in the trust. They can change anything in the trust at any time. But the trust has provisions that describe what happens in the event the grantor becomes incapacitated while they're alive. After they pass away, those assets are immediately available to the successor trustee, and they can begin to administer them without getting the court's permission and authorization to do those things, which is what the probate process is all about. But it does not provide asset protection while you're alive. So a revocable trust, the assets that are in are just like they're yours, right? For all intents and purposes. Now we have irrevocable trusts, and a type of irrevocable trust would be an asset protection trust. And what are these used for? Well, the grantor is usually the trustee of these trusts. So they manage the assets that are in the trust. If they put their home in one of these trusts, they continue to live in their home and can enjoy it. If they put investments into this trust, they're still responsible for directing the investment of those investment accounts. The grantor gets to choose who benefits from the trust. They may receive some of the benefits from the trust while they're alive, but they also can change who the beneficiaries are while they're alive. Um, And it all, but importantly, and for many people, right, who are thinking a little bit about needing senior care, very expensive senior care as they get older, they may want to protect assets so that those assets don't have to be sold to pay for their care, that their assets won't prevent them from being eligible for government benefits that could potentially pay for that care, and that the government won't have a lien on their assets after they pass away to get paid back in the event government pays for that care. So that's what they can be used for. So a little bit about how a trust works. Um, let's see here, the assets, right, that we have, the owner over here, whether they're joint assets, beneficiary forms, things of that nature, they all are directed into the trust after the owner passes away, right? That's where we want everything to go. You can transfer ownership of assets into a trust while you're alive. You would literally retitle those assets. Maybe some of you have done or assisted clients with that, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But after you pass away, these beneficiary designations point all of the money into the trust, and then the trust dictates what happens to the money after that person passes away. I talked a little bit about folks who think that they know something about estate planning, but they often make mistakes and they say, I don't need a will, I don't need a trust. I've made all my assets jointly titled, or they're going to pass according to beneficiary forms. And there are a lot of pitfalls for folks who think that way. And again, I had mentioned before, and I gave you the example with the grandma who had these accounts designated for their grandkids, not realizing that those kids couldn't receive the money because they were under age 18. And that literally cost her family thousands of dollars to have a expensive court proceeding to appoint guardians for the kids. Now, it's not unusual at all for us to get a call from somebody that says, I'm going to put my kids' names on the deed to my house. And the idea is to avoid probate, and maybe they think they're going to protect that asset in the event they need senior care at some point. But putting somebody's name on an account or a deed comes with all kinds of other downsides that folks don't really think about. They lose control of the asset. So if they want to sell that house, they have to get the kid to sign off on it. Maybe the kid's willing to do it, maybe not. If they want to borrow money on the house, they're going to have to get the kid to sign off on all of that, and they'll be subject to the mortgage. They may or may not be willing to do that. Frankly, if their kid precedes them in death, they'll pay inheritance tax on their own asset. If a kid has a creditor problem, then those creditors might be able to get at that asset because the kid is a part owner. If the kid gets divorced, then that asset is an asset in the divorce that could potentially be subject to equitable distribution. You may also uh, cause your child to pay more capital gains tax to sell that asset after you die than they would otherwise. So there are a lot of downsides to putting somebody's name on an asset, and in particular, a deed to property, that there are better ways to accomplish those things. I see a lot of beneficiary form boo-boos, and I think that you probably do too. People that make mistakes with these things like blank, partially completed, stale dated. They do it and they didn't look at it for 20 years and things have changed. Maybe they leave money to minors, or no contingency plans for early deaths. These are all problems that happen when you rely entirely on provisions on a beneficiary form. Special needs beneficiaries, there's really no way to provide for a special needs person in your family with a beneficiary form. There just isn't. The only option is to give them the money, kind of a thing. It's difficult. And then second marriages, you really can't do all of the things that you want to do whenever you have with your estate, whenever you have a second marriage, by just naming your surviving spouse as the beneficiary. You may totally trust that your spouse is going to do the right thing and take care of your kids. And I completely believe that when people tell me this. But what they don't realize is that surviving spouse may have different priorities in their life that come up, like a different significant other. Or maybe they become incapacitated and they're no longer making their decisions about the estate. And the person who's making that decision could be their kids who don't like you or don't like your kids, could be a caregiver, or could whomever. They make the decisions about where that money goes, and all those good intentions are totally out the door. I've seen that happen many, many times. So let's talk about the scope of services that we offer to members that have a primary legal protection plan that are covered under their plan at no additional charge. They get a basic will to protect their families, and that includes the basic trusts for minors or children with special needs. They're going to get a financial power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney to designate somebody to make these important decisions for them while they're alive. They can have a medical consent authorization. Many states allow you to have like a one-page form that says, if you're out of town and you're leaving the kids with grandma or grandpa or aunt or uncle or whatever, and they can't get a hold of you because you're on a cruise ship somewhere. If something happens to the kids, they're authorized to make medical decisions for your children whenever nobody can get a hold of you. Will provide some assistance to make a gift of certain assets in your home, like your jewelry or your guns or your tchotchkes, your collections, whatever it is. We don't want to put those in the will and have to change that every time you do that. So we'll help you with a personal property memorandum. And then we will also help you complete your beneficiary forms for your financial accounts so that they work in concert with the provisions of your will. That's all part of what we do for primary legal protection members. What I would charge somebody on the street, and this price is going to vary depending on what state you're in, 750 to 1500 bucks for all of those services. And I think you can very easily understand that an annual cost for a primary legal protection plan, and I'd encourage all of you just to have folks buy it on an annual basis, is far less than this. So it's a great value. It's a great value. Services that we include for a discounted fee would be an advanced will for folks that have in particular things that need to happen, multiple properties. Business owner is going to require a lot more complex business planning. A standby guardianship agreement for your kids. It's more powerful than just a medical consent authorization. You're literally naming somebody as a guardian for your kids for a limited period of time in the event you become incapacitated. All of us, when we get in our car and go to work during the day, we may not come home because we're involved in an accident, we're seriously injured, we're laid up in a hospital. Who's going to be there to take care of your kids? You can have a plan in place just in case something like that happens to you. Asset protection or irrevocable trusts are available at a discount. Now, revocable trusts are going to be covered under that premium plan. I might be using the terminology, but the high plan that you can offer. There are basic revocable trusts that are available with a discount, and more complicated revocable trusts are available at a discounted rate. So a couple special situations that you should be looking for. Your customers, especially as they get older, want to talk about nursing home planning, protecting assets from Medicaid liens, making sure they're eligible for medical assistance to help pay for their care, have smart spend down plans. Maybe you have a customer who their parent, because of a sudden health crisis, has to go into skilled nursing. And, there are things that we can do to protect their assets and render them eligible for benefits a whole lot faster. You'd be amazed at what we can do to protect assets for people in that situation. Or maybe their spouse has had a stroke and now they're looking at living at home and paying all their bills and also paying the high cost of skilled care for their spouse who is not well enough to come home after that. That's a nightmare situation for everybody. You should definitely be getting them together with an elder law practitioner to talk about what options are available to them to protect as much assets as possible for that spouse who continues to live at home. Small business owners, they're always a challenge from an estate planning perspective. And it's really important for them to sit down with somebody to get a plan in place, not just for their personal assets, but for their business, which is also a personal asset of sorts. When they don't have a plan in place to transition their business and they pass away, it creates a lot of uncertainty. And that uncertainty is just devastating. The value of a business with no plan in place goes down like a third or something right away. Employees are wondering what's going to happen, customers, vendors, everybody's wondering what the heck is going to happen now that the owner has passed away. Do they have a plan in place for somebody to operate the business when they die? Can somebody pay bills? Do they have access to the accounts, the passwords, the usernames, all of that kind of stuff? These are all super important things for business owners to have in place, not only if they have a sudden health crisis while they're alive, but also after they pass away. They pass away, and if they have a business partner, those business partners may look at that as an opportunity to take advantage of them. I'm involved with somebody now, surviving spouse. Her husband and brother owned a business together. He dies, and the brother says, too bad, you're not getting any more money out of this business. You're not entitled to it anymore. She has to hire me. Now we're going to have a fight over that whole thing. Maybe we get it resolved, maybe not. But, those are problems. And then vacation homes. It's a fabulous thing for your clients who have vacation homes. They're like a legacy. It's a lot of family get-togethers there. They're wonderful things. But, one of the worst things that you can do is to leave a family home to 2 or 3 kids with no set of rules about how they are going to share that home after you're gone, right? Because while you're alive, your house, your rules, but you can make it that way even after you're gone. Help your family avoid arguments over expenses, upkeep, using the property, selling it, right? Also, protect that home so that it is never something that can be divided in a divorce if one of your kids gets a divorce or they have addictions or credit problems, right? And ensure that that home is going to stay in the family. So that's what I have for you today. We love working with you. Your clients want to talk to you about these issues. There's something called the advisory gap. And the advisory gap in this context refers to what your customers expect, which is that you're going to ask them about their estate planning and whether they have it in place, and those who don't do it. And if you don't do it, your customers might be looking for somebody that is going to meet their expectations. So you don't want to be one of those financial advisors that is going to fall prey to the advisory gap. You should have no advisory gap. I'd encourage you to make it as a standard question that you ask every customer. Do you have your estate planning in place? And have that conversation with them. We want to work with you together. We're on the same team, right? We're members of the same family. We are guaranteed to edify you as a financial advisor. I can't say that for any other lawyers that your clients might find. Who knows? What do they know about Primerica? What do they know about you? They may be aligned with other financial advisors, but if you send your customers to us, you're guaranteed that we are going to edify you and support you, and maybe even send them back to you to have some discussions about their finances that would be helpful for you. So I appreciate the time that you've given me today, and I'll hand it back over to Dennis.
Great job, Mike. And folks, you can see there's many moving parts to this. So, it all starts with a consultation into your law firm. Once your client becomes a member, encourage them to do that. And our next speaker to close things out is Ohio NSD, Caton Perek. Caton started in the business October 15th, 93, was promoted to RVP in less than a year. He became RVP in September 20th of 94, got a senior vice president promotion in December of 2014, and his NSD promotion on August 1st of 2017. Caton is an $800,000 earner, well on his way to earning the Ruby Ring for being our next $1 million earner at Primerica. So Caton, take it away, my friend. Caton, you're on mute still. There you go.
I know you keep me here as a hope for everyone, and I continue to deliver on that promise. So here we go, you guys. Listen, just a short amount of time. I'm going to compress a whole bunch of things so we don't keep you. But Primerica Legal Protection Program is really, really a huge, huge deal. The key here, if you heard Mike, there's such tremendous value. I'm taking notes, right? And I've heard him before, and I'm telling you, it's amazing stuff. Value. That's a key word right there. Just a short few minutes that I have with you as I compress this picture puzzle idea is to give you a couple of corners and edges, and hopefully things fall in place. Integral part of your business, of your client process, not an afterthought. We've made that mistake for years, and that has not served us. So let's talk about systems a little bit, or what it is or not. What's the best systems? It's not an idea. I'm not here to kind of talk about our system, because what Mike talked about is amazing reasons why people should do PLPP. But then in our case, we need to figure out, how do we incorporate in our business? Your client, your RVP system is the best system. We follow the company. We focus on solving, not selling. And then we simplify PLPP. So the headline, 3-minute conversation, not 30-minute conversation, 3 features, not 300 features on PLPP. So keep that in mind. Mike did a great job describing why PLPP, and using estate planning through our PLPP process. I'll focus a little bit more on the YBH with respect to our Primerica. Here we go. 4 perspectives I want to give you. I'm skipping through little things here. 4 different perspectives. If this makes sense for the clients, if that makes sense to the people who are looking into Primerica to become potentially clients or our new recruits, okay? And it makes sense to people who are RVPs and builders, and RVPs to be future RVPs, builders in the business, then that's music to our ears. And I want to make a case here really quickly in just next few minutes why it's an important thing to do from all 4 perspectives. So clients, keyword value. Value can be real or perceived, but you can have real value, and we do, but if it's not perceived by them as value, then it's no good, right? So when you talk to somebody as clients at the kitchen table, for example, or in a Zoom meeting, multiple relationships they have with different financial professionals in our first meeting, you find out, right? They have a banker, they have insurance guy, they have this, that, right? Different. But when you discuss living wills, the estate planning process through PLPP, what you experience is an emotion which is relief, load off of their shoulders. You can literally see body language change. Folks, that's leverage. That's power. And then key is to deliver it with simplicity, like we talked about, in 3 minutes. Here's a link. Let's get this thing done for you. But then stay as a follow through, not spending time, hours and hours discussing, the legal protection program, right? So that's the key right there. And the value is delivered that allows you and that facilitates what we call kitchen table hopping. Client solutions and many, many other things in Primerica One Family I've learned from the great Norman and Helen De Silva. And I first heard the phrase walking, talking billboards. That was appealing to me with respect to our business. And literally PLPP has created that leverage for us in creating kitchen table hopping, what I call it, or walking, talking billboards. So now let's take a look at it from the perspective of public or people who are looking into Primerica. We already have a financial person. If you're trying to set an appointment, they'll say sometimes, right? And when they say that hey, we already have a financial professional already that we're working with. When you talk about, I'm sure then you guys have a will and living will taken care of, and I'm sure it's current, correct? All of a sudden, pin drop silence on the other side, because no. Oh, okay, we need to have an exploratory conversation. You see how it opens the doors, right? Or sometimes people say, I know Primerica, I've looked into Primerica before, or something like that, right? When you discuss PLPP, legal protection program, getting the wills and living will estate planning process taken care of, now the reaction changes into, I didn't know you did that too, right? It just changes and creates an opening. And then more importantly, what I call the Primerica syndrome is cured. We all have dealt with it, right? The neighbors, co-workers, fishing buddy who has an opinion, they're glad to share why Primerica doesn't work, right? It completely cures that if you use and lead with legal protection program. And the most importantly, like we talked about, other financial professionals either can't or won't offer a service like this. That's huge, folks, that we have an advantage. Now, new recruits, this is an important one. new recruits, we're all here to recruit, build an organization and movement. And new recruits, folks, what happens is their self-image when they walk into Primerica, their self-image is not of, oh, I'm the financial go-to person, right? Because in many of the cases, like in mine, right, my wife did not even let me near our checking account checkbook, right? That was our arrangement. And I was happy with that arrangement. And here I come in Primerica and they're going to make me mess with other people's money. What do you think? My self-image was not very good. But if you do incorporate PLPP in a proper way in your business, the new recruit goes, it's simple. I can do this, right? And when that happens, what I call the birds don't get them. The people they talk to out there that talk them out of this business in the first few weeks, man, that doesn't happen. And they realize, new recruits, that they don't have to have burden of responsibility of knowing everything that Mike was talking about. All they got to do is say, hey, PLPP, these are the experts. They'll take care of you. It's kind of the person at a Target, right? Where's Cheerios? Well, it'll be aisle 14 on a top shelf. That's all they need to know. They don't need to know all the ingredients and, allergies and everything that's on the box, but the experts take care of that. That's the business. That's what we got to get new recruit to see, and they will see that right away if you incorporate this and lead with it in our business. Now, builder's perspective, that's the last one I want to talk about, right? As a builder, all we got to think about is, can I buy time? Can I get this person to stick around a little bit longer? They will know Primerica. They will love Primerica. They'll stick around in Primerica. And then multiple checks. See, I'm a firm believer that you can give somebody a $500 check on one client or give them PLPP $50 checks, but 4 of them. I think that creates more excitement because there's checks coming in all the time. Oh, by the way, PLPP just improved because now we have multiple possibilities of 3 triplicate of choice with even higher compensation. Another builder's perspective is this: got to be paperless. And this is my belief, is no presentation on PLPP and no brochures on PLPP. We spend minimal amount of time because the key is this. Folks, McDonald's story, I want to tell you really quick as I begin to close this thing. McDonald's, some 20 some years ago, in select locations on a test drive basis, they introduced pizza. And within the first week, they outdid Pizza Hut back then and Domino's, the top 2 combined in select locations. That's distribution. We have that in Primerica. That's distribution. But McDonald's does not have pizza, as we all know, because if it clutters their system, if it increases a drive-through time by 7 seconds or whatever the number is, right, they will not introduce it. Right? We don't want to create clutter in our system, yet there's tremendous value we want to bring to the clients. Right? So hope this kind of helps you a little bit. I kind of rushed through some of this thing, but I hope that helps you. And one thing is this, I will kind of close out with call to an action. And here's an interesting perspective, right? What if we just told everybody on our team that let's run a campaign. Here's a campaign we're going to run. We're going to have you ask, kind of like a survey mode, ask 20 people, 10 people, 30 people, pick a number based on you think what their belief system would be. And you just say, I'm just checking with you and doing some feasibility study for my business. And I want to find out, can I ask you some questions? 30 seconds is all it'll take. Oh yeah, sure. Okay, awesome. First question, do you have a will? B, second, is it current? Right? Is it current? Right? Those are the only 2 questions you want to ask. Thank you very much for your time. Now, if the answer is no, they can always call back, or whoever is controlling the point of contact can always call back and get the appointment set. What if we just did that? Which means what? We just got some ball moving. Momentum is started. and then have some sort of goal set saying, okay, my new recruit here, we're going to move you to district. We're fast tracking you to district. Let's get you in the process. Also, let's get you appointments, and we'll get like 3 PLPPs and make you eligible for the bonus. What would that be like? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? We have almost 2 weeks to go in the business. We can get this thing done, you guys. We can move the needle. And I'm telling you, there'll be stories in the future people will talk about that, hey, all I did was make a call to so-and-so and ask them this question about a will, or this will conversation came up as we were setting up the appointment, and that they said, wow, we were interested in that. We got an appointment, and then fast forward the tape, they'll talk about how they got millions of dollars in investments eventually through that chain, or better yet, recruiting success, which then led into some RVPs and big builders in their business, you guys. This is how powerful it is. Let's not take it for granted. Let's go deliver in a big way. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all. See you guys.